Okay, so on this episode, we are talking about prop tech. And joining us today, we've got Natalie Moore in the studio, and then dialing in, we have got Amy Shields as well. Amy, would you quickly like to introduce yourself to our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. So, worked as an estate agent for 16 years for the Mighty Romans for 12 years, and then an awesome LSLI brand, Davis Tate, for 4 years before I then decided to stay in the property world, but make a little bit of a change into the prop tech industry, property technology. So I always loved using tech in the agency world, was always quite excited to be a guinea pig and a tester with anything that we were testing, trialing, and rolling out. And just thought it was a really, really good opportunity to expand my knowledge in the industry that we love and work in.
Amazing. Thank you. And Natalie, would you like to say hi to everyone?
Yeah, so I'm Natalie Moore, founder of Aconveyancing. Aconveyancing deals with residential conveyancing. It's a company that I set up 5 years ago, and we work on improving the conveyancing process, working alongside estate agents and embracing prop tech, which has been a challenge because having to understand that whilst building a business that's growing and expanding, and there's just so much change in the industry at the moment.
So with the, and just from my point of view, because I'm obviously not clued up on like the property tech side of things, what technology has come into effect over the last few years, and what about it is scary?
So what's come in over the last few years is a lot of technology that's designed to automate a lot of the administration process. So that's one element that's, there's a lot of products out there. There's also products out there designed to share information across the industry, whether it be with conveyancers or mortgage brokers. And there's also, technology that's designed for clients to be able to understand where they're at in their transaction. And it's all designed to improve the conveyancing process, which is renowned for being slow or glitchy or waiting on other information, and the communication isn't great. So it's understanding what takes a conveyancing transaction so long to complete, and what can be done to speed that up in the interest of all parties, including estate agents.
Yeah, and Amy, from the agency side of things, how does that impact you guys?
I mean, prop tech in the agency world is a little different to the tech available to conveyancers, of course. So there's a whole variety of tech available to agents, and you're looking at anything from nurture journeys and that automation, like Natalie said, to data companies who provide data for every situation going, so that you can target market, even down to things like your social media being managed, and then you've obviously got instruction winning prop tech, so and prospecting bits of tech as well, that so you automate all your letters and your leaflets. You've got, I mean, even things like the sort of the money pennies of the world, the answering services, they would fall into our world as well. And then there is now starting a crossover. So obviously currently I'm working at View My Chain, and we are a company and a technology company that sells and works with both estate agents and conveyancers to streamline communication.
Yeah, because it's interesting. We did an episode yesterday, and we were talking about the relationship between conveyancers and estate agents. And I bought my first home with Aconveyancing just before Christmas. And I think clients and people buying homes would just assume that estate agents and conveyancers, if there is technology in place, you just work on the same platform. And the guest that we had on said, actually, no, it's separate, and that's what causes a lot of the issues. So to View My Chain, does that sort of bring everything together?
I mean, the two fundamental differences. So an estate agent will use something called a CRM, which is their database. So that's where they will do everything from register a buyer, book in viewings, book in valuations, nurture their database, basically, or their previous clients. And a conveyancer will have a case management system, which is very similar in essence, but they're just different. Now, the problem you've got in the property industry is there are hundreds, if not thousands, of different case management systems and CRMs for estate agents, and they don't all talk to each other. So the problem you've got is that conveyancers and estate agents don't have a platform that they both use that kind of connects everything up, if that makes sense. So it isn't as easy. There are some conveyancing companies that have consumer-facing apps and consumer-facing platforms. Same with estate agents. Some of the larger estate agents and nationals have consumer-facing portals that clients can log into and look at their viewings, look at their feedback, that kind of thing. But no, there's not one system that. And I don't think there ever will be, because I don't think it's possible. Well, it probably is possible, but I don't think you're ever going to get all estate agents and all conveyancers using the same system.
Yeah, because I guess you work so differently, and although you have the same goal.
Yeah, so exactly that. People work very differently, and there's different types of firms out there. There's firms that do volume conveyancing, and there's firms that are quite niche to a specific area of law, whether it be new build or remortgage. So there's different CRMs, case managements are designed bespokely for that type of work. Just going back to what we were talking about before, and estate agents having various prop tech or systems in place, conveyancers have only really ever had a case management system, whereas now there's so much technology that can potentially be either integrated into those case management systems or systems in place that combine or do tasks for the conveyancers. So one task in particular is sort of AML checks. Now, it won't be the case management system that does that, so you'll be relying on another form of prop tech. And the more tasks that you try and replace with technology, the more different types of technology or different portals you find yourself using and paying for. And some of those, and ultimately it's the clients that are paying for these to speed up the transaction. So we might be using a portal as a conveyancer to carry out an ID check or an AML check, but an estate agent might also be using one, so you're almost doubling the tasks that you're carrying out or repeating the tasks, but charging the client twice.
So how would you avoid that?
You can't at the moment. This is the frustration.
Okay.
Legislation prevents that at the moment. So there's a lot of focus on trying to encourage upfront information or be able the shareability factor. So that's where it's really frustrating for firms at the moment to try and learn about what's available and trying to understand it whilst also doing their day-to-day tasks that a conveyancer is expected to do, and time is not something that a lot of conveyancers have.
Exactly.
And then, it comes down to pricing as well. There's only so much a client is prepared to pay for from a conveyancing service when it's being cutthroat and people undercutting or firms undercutting on fees for such a long period of time. So you embrace technology, but it comes at a cost.
Oh, yeah, that's the thing. Amy, do you find the same on the agency side of things?
Yeah, I mean, what we're sort of fundamentally trying to do at the moment is that there is a lot of double up, like Natalie said, with like AML. The company I'm working for at the moment, so View My Chain, what we're trying to do is when a property goes under offer, it is then the time that agents in the chain and conveyancers need to work together. Now, agents, rightly or wrongly, we're competitive little beings, and it can be, you have to phone your competitors and talk to them sometimes and have fun conversations. And what we're trying to do is just streamline that communication and improve efficiency. So what I find fascinating is a conveyancer will work on obviously their link, and me and Natalie have had lots of conversations about this, that they'll work on their transaction, their move, their link that they're working on, but conveyancers don't have any view of, or instant view, real-time view of what is going on in the rest of the chain. So you could have like a chain of 5 properties, and until phone calls are made or emails are exchanged, nobody in that chain has any idea of what is actually going on, what status each property is at. So Natalie could be steaming ahead and be ready to exchange, within 8 weeks, but someone else has just had a down valuation, causing chaos, and no one in the chain would know about it, or a fall through. I had absolutely catastrophic examples in agency where you'd get a phone call from another agent in the chain and said, unfortunately we lost the buyer, but don't panic, we've resold it, and here's the new buyer's details. And it's like, oh, okay, that's great, but when did the last buyer put? And often you'd get answers like, 4 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, and it's like, well, I could have resold mine within a couple of days, and be 4 weeks ahead again. And so the lack of communication and visibility, I think, within a chain, it just isn't there for anybody in the industry until you have to start making a lot of phone calls and emails, which Natalie will tell you, as a conveyancer, you get bombarded for just update calls, as do the estate agents. So we're just trying to help the industry with giving some more time back, so being able to see what is actually happening in real time at key stages of each property in every chain.
Yeah. And what would you say in the conveyancing world, Natalie, is tech that you've been able to integrate that you're like, this is a lifesaver for you and your team, but also this is great for our clients as well?
So I've seen quite a bit this year. So I made, I think I did an article in January saying that I was focusing my time this year on understanding prop tech and seeing what was out there and what was available. And I've seen some really, really great stuff that I really like and that would be great for my business and for my clients. But then even when you found it, you come across another obstacle, which isn't cost. There's that as well. It's the, what we call API into our current systems. So you just are restricted, or you hit a block constantly because you see something really good, but then you can't integrate it into your system. So that's when you find yourself using different portals and paying different prices. And yeah, it's just a challenge all the time. I think automation is coming. I think the human element is still so important, which is, when me and Amy talk about, using these systems to allow time savings so that we can focus on, guiding clients and advising clients, because that's what conveyancers are, advisors. But unfortunately, if they're too busy updating every day or responding to emails, they can't get the legal work done, or they can't spend valuable time talking to clients that really, really need it. So that's kind of my battle. So I'd love to pick and choose all the things I'd like to use and put them all into one system.
I think when it comes to tech in any industry, there's a lot of appreciation and excitement for like automation, AI and stuff like that. But people also get a little bit scared with it, like, replacing jobs, replacing processes. What elements in conveyancing and also in the agency side of things do you think that's just never, ever going to be able to be replaced by tech? Amy?
The customer journey is absolutely first and foremost the most important thing for me. I'm very, very customer service driven. Even in the prop tech world, I want to make sure that all my clients that are using technology that I sell to them, in essence, get the best journey and experience with us. It's if you give a Natalie knows, because she's this is her mantra as well. If you give a rubbish service, then you're not going to get the repeat business. You're not going to ever speak to that client again. They're going to give you a bad review. It's the most fundamentally important thing, and I'm a real firm believer that tech will never ever replace people ever. But what we can use it for is actually time saving, to increase efficiency, so that actually you have time to give a better customer journey, and using tech to enhance the customer journey. So things like apps are awesome. You can't order a pizza now on Domino's. You know when they're making it, when it goes in the oven, when it's leaving the shop, when it's on its way, when the driver is near, and then all of a sudden they're ringing your front. So the customer journey, with the aid of technology, has got so much better. And there's nothing more frustrating, and I'm sure Natalie would agree, that when a client rings up and wants an update on the purchase of their house, they want an update. They don't want you to turn around and say, okay, let me make a few phone calls and I'll come back to you.
Yeah.
That's annoying. And that's what estate agents and the majority of time conveyancers have to say to then, before they can go back to their clients. So then that person then has to leave a load of voicemails, send off loads of emails, and then wait goodness knows how long until that's all come back in, so then you can go back and update your client. So, you know, with the help of tech, hopefully you can just enhance that journey so that when the client's on the phone, you can actually say, actually, I can see the searches have just been ordered down in Cornwall. Good news, we're still on track. Or, oh, I can see your mortgage offers out. Whatever that update is, you just need to know where you're at all the time. You need to be that property professional.
It is tough, and you know, conveyancers have gone through so much change. You know, any area of law is behind the times. You look how long it takes to, you know, challenge any legislation or anything like that.
Yes.
And you know, even in my 20 years of conveyancing, the industry's changed so much, and it needs to be changing for the better. If you look back over the last 20 years of conveyancing, you know how much has really changed. Timescales are getting longer, you know, and with digitalisation and technology, it should be improving.
Yeah,
it really should be.
That's the thing you think with all the tech. And I guess that's the thing as well, because you both obviously talked about the impact that it has on the customer journey and customers' experience being at the heart of everything. But actually, and we've been talking on other podcast episodes about the mental health of people working in the conveyancing world, and the impact that the workload and the caseload has on their mental health and stress and all of that. And in fact, in this case, technology ought to help aid caseloads. Is that going to be like a...
Yeah, absolutely, it should be. And, you know, Amy talking about her product giving visibility, so it will save the conveyancers time. And, you know, that's where conveyancers burn out, because they don't have enough time in the day, or they're, you know, just getting flooded with emails or telephone calls. So if we can eliminate those, we can give a better service and we can enjoy our jobs more by talking to clients. And, you know, people go into law to understand the law and advise on the law.
That's it. And there's always going to be like the need, like Amy was saying, and you were saying as well, Natalie, there's always going to be the need for the human element, you know, and buying and selling homes is one of the biggest, most stressful, but most exciting things. And if there wasn't that human element, you're always going to need that advisory element as well, the emotional side of things. There's always going to be the need for that, isn't there?
Hopefully. Yeah. I mean, we don't know. We can only prepare ourselves. I think today, actually, LMS announced the first remortgage transaction complete electronically without human interaction.
But end to end?
Remortgage is very different though, because it's like taking out a loan.
Yeah,
So it doesn't involve different parties. It doesn't involve a chain. And so I think a lot of people, we talked about before, people fearing this change and this automation, and they'll hear that news and they'll go into panic mode that robots are taking over the industry and things like that. But again, it's ultimately we've got to remember that it's the clients we're serving here.
Yeah.
And if they can remortgage quicker and get their money, then they can purchase quicker. So it ultimately speeds other things up. You know, you're always going to have in-house sales, you're always going to have a chain, you're always going to have other people, you know, involved in moving and things like that. So, you know, it's really easy to take information and be scared when it's different.
Yeah. Exactly. And obviously that's the thing as well with technology, it's moving so quickly all the time.
It's moving really quickly, and the property industry is renowned for being damaged, if not broken. So there's a lot of companies and a lot of prop tech with a lot of money coming in from, you know, Australia and America, Canada, you know, to improve the system. So it is daunting, but the only way that we can, you know, remain here is to, you know, fight for it and
embrace it,
and prove that it does need that human element still. And you know, we know it better than anybody, so but you know, we can be open to a little bit of help.
Definitely. And Amy, what about in the next, I was going to say 10 years, but 10 years I think is way too far down the line. Even in the next like 2 to 5 years, what sort of further changes and enhancements in the tech side of things will we see?
I think, you know, the things, the actual process of, I think, fundamental agency will not change. You're always going to go view a house, buy it, make an offer on it. What needs to change is the point where a property goes under offer. And there's lots of things going on, like with the digitization at the land registry, electronically signed signatures. There's so much. The fact you can't still sign a contract electronically when you buy a house.
Yeah,
You've got to sign it, scan it in, and send it to Natalie or put it in the post still. It's bonkers. So it needs to become a lot simpler. It's never going to be as easy as buying a car. There's a lot more at risk, a lot more involved. And there's a mortgage company involved as well, that obviously the conveyancers have to make sure they have no risk and protect the mortgage lenders as well. So I just think that there needs to be a lot more communication and visibility. I think visibility is the key word. There are systems out there like Coduke that are coming in, that are networks that are going to join everybody up, which are great. And I think with all companies, conveyancers and estate agents, you need to choose the tech and the tech out there that is right for you. There's over 600 prop tech companies in the UK alone, let alone the ones coming in from other countries around the world. So choosing the right systems that are going to work with your processes, your company, how you work, because there are different agents out there and different types of conveyancers. Natalie purely focuses on residential. And then on the agency side of things, you've got, the internet agents, the hybrid models, the self-employed models, the high streets, the corporates, the independents. They all work differently, and they're all great in their own ways, but they all have different systems and processes. Some are a lot more centralized, whereas others do everything themselves. So, and I don't think there's a right or wrong way of doing things, because I think people always also should have the choice of whether they run with a big national estate agent or they choose somebody that's self-employed and is very bespoke and independent. So it's what works well for you. And I think in this 5-10 years time, I'd like to think estate agents are still around and still doing viewings and doing the fundamentals of the job, and still giving a great service, because trust me, with the backlash we get, you're only an estate agent if you really are passionate about the property world and actually helping people. Tech just helps us.
That's it. And Natalie, how do you go about, obviously as the founder of Aconveyancing, if there's so much out there, do you get bombarded with pitches from these tech companies, and how do you go about choosing?
Don't answer that, Natalie.
How do you choose the right partner?
I've had to sort of tools down, step aside from sort of residential conveyancing to work on the business as opposed to in the business. So a lot of networking, embracing it, demoing it, allowing time, investing time into understanding it. That mainly, and just going back to the question that you asked Amy about in the next few years, or the reason that I'm so interested in it and what I'd like to see is just timescales reducing, because I see so many clients moving house and literally so stressed out and just, boxed up or waiting, or it has a effect on families and relationships and things like that. So not to mention the conveyancers and the agents that are all working involved. So I think for me at Aconveyancing, my sort of journey of trying to understand it and roll with it is to how can it improve timescales? Again, other firms need to too. And many are. And many are way ahead of Aconveyancing. So, it's scary for us because we don't want to, get lost on the way, or with all these big companies taking over. So it's just about working hard and like Amy said, being passionate about what you do and enjoying what you do.
100%.
And if you don't, it's not right for you.
Exactly. And when you are in a client-facing role, in any industry, I always find it really weird how someone's in a service-based role and it's like they hate people. I'm like, wait, is this? Did you know that this was a thing? But then that's what stress can do to you, though, can't it?
I walk into the office every day, and I see people, on the phone constantly, or we still got very much hard files that, it's crazy.
I was
And there's
gonna
so
ask.
many firms that have gone digital, and, I admire them and I'd like to get there at some point. But because I think if you've been in the industry a long time, it's hard to adapt.
Yeah.
And it's recognising that too. And, we've got a lot of younger conveyancers now that are training up, and we've just opened an academy, so we're training them up, and we're trying to train them up based on what they know and what they're good at. So it's empowering the new leaders of tomorrow. So, introducing them to this industry and all the changes that are coming with it, but not weighing them down with our old habits.
Yeah, and I guess, and we were talking about this earlier, the new like tech savvy talent, if they can sort of, come into firms and they might look at a paper file and be like, a paper?
Yeah, they can teach
What's
us
that?
how,
Yeah.
it's learning from each other. They can teach us how not to do it as much as we can teach them how to communicate with clients.
Exactly. So I'd like to just end this podcast just talking a little bit about like both of you and your career journey. And I'd love to ask, what is the best professional advice that anyone has given you in your career? Amy?
I think two things. So Dale Norton, who founded Romans, when we hit the recession, it was his favourite saying was every market makes a market. And it just sort of resonates because obviously the property industry now is going through a change again. We've been through COVID, and my goodness, that was interesting. But things are starting to slow, the interest rates going up and cost of living, etc. So I think if you are a driven person, to go with it and make the most out of every opportunity. And it doesn't matter whether it's a good market, a bad market, because it goes around in a big circle in the property world anyway, but make the most out of each opportunity you get. And I think the other, probably for any salesperson, is you've got two of these and one of these, and listen. Often as an estate agent, I'm sure Natalie finds the same, you often turn into a therapist and have therapy sessions with your clients. And I used to go on valuations, and you just used to just sit there on the sofa with a cup of tea and just let someone talk to you, tell you their life history. And just listen, absorb it all, because that's how you'll win the instruction, because then you just relate everything back to their situation.
Oh, I love that. Absolutely love that. Natalie, what about you? What's the best professional advice anyone's given you?
So I'm going to take two as well, seeing as Amy did. I think for me, following the first lockdown, which was really, really scary and daunting on a professional level, having set up a residential conveyancing company and the housing market being closed, and we were growing at the time, I reached out under the Agents Together mentorship scheme, and I had a conversation with Kenny Bruce, and I was asking his advice, and what's really hard for me is setting up a company but having no one to get guidance from. People very much come to me for guidance, and when it comes to a business decision and you just feel totally out of your depth and imposter syndrome, I reached out to Kenny and I said, I think the housing market's going to go crazy afterwards. Everybody's going to want to move house. People are making redundancies and furloughing, and I just don't feel it's the right thing, but I'm scared. And a bit like Amy said, where there's a market, I can't remember the saying, there's a market, go with it, run with it. And that's what he said to me. He said, don't do what everybody else is doing, do what feels right and run with it. And I'm so glad I did at the time, because we've been able to grow, we've been able to create more opportunities, and enjoyed the journey as well. So that was my one. And then secondly, I think working under Kevin Smith at Simplify in my early days of conveyancing, watching his leadership approach has helped me in terms of how I liaise with my team. So he always knew everybody's name. He always found time to say hello. and everybody always had respect for him. So they're the two things that have really probably stand out as helping me on my individual journey at Aconveyancing, yeah.
And when you founded Acon, did you have like a mentor or someone to look up to, or did you just...
Vicky, I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have a business plan. I just had a passion for conveyancing.
It's the passion again, isn't
and
it?
And a laptop.
Yeah, let's go.
And that goes down to, just love what you do.
That is amazing. Absolutely love that. And I guess, and obviously it's a topic of a lot of our podcasts, and obviously within the industry as well. It's obviously everyone shares conversations about the challenges, but why is the property industry an exciting place to work, Amy?
Oh goodness,
because you seem really
people.
Passionate. Yeah, sorry,
it's got to be the people. Yeah, I mean, I love all things property. I'm the kind of person that whatever holiday I'm on, I'm looking in the estate agency windows. The best one was Antigua. It was like a notice board with like Post-its stuck to this notice board. There wasn't even an estate agent. It was just like literally a notice board. That was brilliant. I think anybody in the property world, regardless of whether you're a conveyancer, surveyor, estate agent, mortgage advisor, you've got to love it because it's tough. Like, it's not we just go and sit in an office and, I know every industry's tough, right? But you've really got to have a passion for it, because to take the lows as well as the highs, and the lows get really tough. And again, big shout out to Agents Together, because they've helped a lot of people going through those lows, since throughout and after the COVID period. You've just got to love it. You've got to love it. But the people in it, the networking, when you become part of groups like the Women in Estate Agency group on Facebook that me and Natalie met through, the support in those kind of forums that you get is just fantastic. We're all championing each other, and it's lovely. And I think the property industry is quite close knit. When you go to conferences, it's all hugs and kisses, and it's sort of, even with your competitors, you have that kind of friendly banter that you hate them, but you love them as well, all at the same time. And it's I don't know. There's just something about the property world that's just awesome. I can't put your finger on it. You love it or hate it, but you've got to be able to take those lows.
Would you agree, Natalie?
Absolutely. I think it's the adrenaline behind it, isn't it? It's your life-changing events, people moving house, and, being the person to tell them they can get the keys on that day, whatever the journey you've been on, or, even if it's not a high at the end on completion, it's, people, deceased properties, you're on that journey with people. So, yeah, back in Amy, it's all about the people.
100%. Definitely. And as we have you here, Natalie, so it was your idea to start the Conveyancers for Change podcast. What was it that inspired you?
I think the lack of support for conveyancers in the industry, and seeing firsthand the struggles that people go through with their mental health. It's a responsibility that I felt I had to do. And going back to Amy, shout out to Agents Together, I could see that was so evident in the estate agent industry, and it was working so well, and it was making such a huge difference, and people were open to it and embracing it. And therefore I felt that if I could, one, help people within my organisation, then great, but if we could extend that out and help anybody else in the industry in any way possible. I'm not sure whether it does help anyone, but even if it helps one person, and that's what I enjoy. I enjoy the giving back. I enjoy the support side. I don't particularly want to ever have to go back to fee earning, because it's so brutal and full on, and I've done my stint of that. But I'm still very much hands on in conveyancing, and just seeing what I can do to give back and just keep people together.
That's it. And it's exactly like Amy was saying, it's because it is all about the people. It is about becoming...
The lows are tough. the lows are tough and they're very sort of lonely as well. So.
And that's it, I guess. And this is exactly like you were saying. If there's people out there, and that's why we want to have these sort of conversations on a podcast. If you are feeling lonely, and a lot of people don't have the confidence to reach out and ask for help, do they? So
no, and we spend all day every day looking after other people's struggles. And, helping them reach their goals, or, we talk about conveyancers and agents being therapists, but, we're human too. So
yeah, you need someone as well. And you need to be at your strongest in order to provide the best service as well, don't you? Finally as well, Amy, because you love property so much, dream house, what would it be?
You can't do that to me, Nikki. That's harsh. Okay, the ultimate has to be the glass house hanging over a beach in Cornwall.
Oh,
wow!
But you could also throw me a log cabin in the mountains in Switzerland as well.
Dan, our tech guy, would love that as well. That sounds. Is it the glass houses where they overhang and it's just it's like you get the panoramic views? Is that what you're thinking?
Would be great.
That'd do. Yeah.
That'd be fine.
What about you, Natalie?
Just something quiet. I think my days are just so busy and always on the go. So somewhere just to come home to and just relax, and I don't know. Maybe a bit of land, I don't know.
Just a little bit of land.
Yeah.
Love it. Thank you both so much for joining us in this episode. Some amazing insights and some little nuggets of advice and information. And hopefully if people are sort of fearing, as you say, is in the industry, there's that fear of technology, but they can embrace like the positive advantages and the good impact that it's going to have. But no, thank you so much. This has been
Amy.
Great, and we will see you soon.